Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Colum concert for the Colum gathering. And you're all very welcome here tonight. Our first performers, they're appearing now. Bridie Goebel. Any of you know Bridie? That's the one with the red hair, Bridie. And the Longford Voices United. I know a lot of them, so I won't say anything about any of them in case I leave someone out. So, hand you over now for the first performance tonight, Bridie Goebel and Longford Voices United.
Díobh go léir fáilte rómhaigh agus is mór an ónur dúi bheith an seo chun an event seo chun cartúsnas an event seo. An chéad ára a bheith inis nó Mugilamar. We're going to start the night off with Mugilamar and Shin by Molly Malone agus Óróis de Bhahuáile, and we'll follow with Molly Malone and Óróis de Bhahuáile. So we hope that you may remember some of these songs from your very recent school days and sing along with us.
Magila
start the night. Longford Voices United. Give them another round of applause. Well done. Thank you very much. Now, our next, our three young Longford poets, the winners in the inaugural Colum poetry competition, will each read their winning poem now. We have Bevan O'Brien, Cara Martin, sorry, I'm wrong way around. Cara Martin, Alicia Flood, and Ellen Kenny. Is that right?
Grandfathers are special, but mine is just the best. He will pass any grandfather test. He even has a motorbike, and it is really cool. And if it breaks, he can fix it by using all his tools. He also has a kayak, which is a type of boat, and he always carries silver mints in the pocket of his coat. And then there is the lawnmower for cutting all the grass. He sometimes lets me drive it and shouts, "Don't go too fast." And now there is the greenhouse, and it really rules. Strawberries, lettuce, onions, tomatoes, and flowers. I love it, it's so cool. He always makes me laugh by joking all the time. He is just the best granddad, and I'm really glad he's mine.
Alan McMonigal judged the poetry competition, and he couldn't decide in the top three, and then there were four, which Mary reminded me of, so we'll have highly commended now. Alicia Flood. I'll get there.
Sea in red. Poppies on a summer's day, delicate and elegant as they sway, the warmth and body of mulled wine, succulent, ripened tomatoes decline. Raspberries, strawberries, red currants aglow, robin redbreast on a branch below. Sunset on a pebbled beach, buried holly out of reach. Burning timber, sparks alight, rosy cheeks, youth's heart delight. Crimson cherry, plum and scarlet, ruby red and deep-coloured garnet. Everywhere I look, I'm seeing red, not from anger, but from God's flower bed.
Now our next poem was in second place, is that right, or have I that wrong again? Second place. Come ahead now. And this is Bevan at long last. Okay, Bevan.
Bittersweet. Tears glisten as they cascade down cheeks. Death's visit leaving a heavy weight in its wake that makes it hard to breathe, to think. An exquisite kind of dark emotion, love and loss and heartbreak and emptiness, for they are no longer there. All that's left is an empty chair, silence, and your memories. And as the snow falls down, angels dusting out a room in heaven, you realise that loving them and losing them is bittersweet, but you would never have it any other way.
Now, I can't go wrong now, there's only one left. It's Ellen Kenny, who was the winner of the poetry competition. So here she comes now with her winning poem.
All the times I never accepted a dare, hiding shaky hands and feeling scorn that wasn't there, treading carefully behind as they all ran ahead, they're all that remains of the life I never led. All of the friendships I left disregarded as I built up barricades in the struggle to stay guarded. There's more bridges to burn if I follow this thread, leaving only the ashes of the life I never led. All of the chances where I never spoke up, for fear that one wrong move would make me burn up. There could have been scenarios played out in my head, and they're all that remains of the life I never led. And yet, time isn't up, opportunities lie ahead, to love, break and learn, to say what was unsaid. What's gone may be gone, but can I go on playing dead? Or maybe I'll start living the life I never led.
Well, the spirit of poetry and Colum is very much alive when you have that. Now, coming up next, we have Eleanor Quain. I heard her sing recently in Granard at the Harp Festival. She's a native of Ballycloughan, teaches in Dublin. She's come down especially this evening to be with us.
When will you bring me my love? I'm counting down the days. When will you bring me my love?
The reason she reminds us of Eleanor Shanley and she's fed up with this is because she's a niece of Eleanor Shanley. But when you're related to royalty, you have to put up with it. Well done, and we look forward to getting your LP. Give him a big round of applause. Pat Joe McLaughlin, everybody.
Thank you, Wayman. Well, I'm from North Longford, Ballinamok to be precise, which has historical significance as well, but as they say, Shin Scale not for tonight. I'm going to read 3 of Pádraig's poems. The first one is called The Plougher, as in ploughman. We're all aware, maybe painfully aware, of the National Ploughing Championships on at the moment, and it reminds me of the comparison with the early 1950s, when I remember on a farm in North Longford what ploughing was like then. Just what was called a swing plough at the time. It was a plough that didn't have a wheel on it to direct it. However, on a horse, or 2 horses usually. This poem that Pádraig has written goes way back further than the 1950s. It actually goes back into the mists of time. What Patrick Kavanagh said at the end of one of his poems, where the mists where Genesis begins. The plougher. Sunset and silence. A man. Around him earth savage, earth broken. Beside him 2 horses, a plough. Earth savage, earth broken, the brutes, the dawn man there in the sunset, and the plough that is twin to the sword that is founder of cities. Brute tamer, plough maker, earth breaker, canst hear? There are ages between us. Is it praying you are as you stand there alone in the sunset? Surely our sky-born gods can be naught to you, earth child and earth master. Surely your thoughts are of Pan or of Wotan or Dana. Yet why give thought to the gods? Has Pan led your brutes where they stumble? Has Dana numbed pain of the childbed, or Wotan put hands to your plough? What matter your foolish reply, O man standing lone and bowed earthward? Your task is a day near its close. Give thanks to the night-giving God. Slowly the darkness falls, the broken lands blend with the savage, the brute tamer stands by the brutes, a head's breadth only above them. A head's breadth, aye, but therein is hell's depth, and the height up to heaven, and the thrones of the gods, and their halls, their chariots, purples and splendors. Thank you. This poem is called A Drover, and my connection with this, which goes back again to the 1950s. I remember when I was about 12 years old, helping to drive cattle to a fair in Longford from Ballinamok, which is about 12 miles. And it, in memory anyway, it was in the middle of the night, because by the time we got to Longford it was about daybreak. And when you were young, you would be sent ahead sometimes to stand in gaps at the side of the road to stop the cattle going into it. And Porrick has this mentioned here as well. To meath of the pastures, from wet hills by the sea, through Leitrim and Longford, go my cattle and me. I hear in the darkness their slipping and breathing. I name them the byways they're to pass without heeding. Then the wet, winding roads, brown bogs with black water, and my thoughts on white ships and the King of Spain's daughter. Oh, farmer, strong farmer, you can spend at the fair, but your face you must turn to your crops and your care. And soldiers, red soldiers, you've seen many lands, but you walk 2 by 2 and by captain's commands. Oh, the smell of the beasts, the wet wind in the morn, and the proud and hard earth, never broken for corn. And the crowds at the fair, the herds loosened and blind, loud words and dark faces, and the wild blood behind. O strong men, with your best, I would strive breast to breast. I could quiet your herds with my words, with my words. I will bring you my kine, where there's grass to the knee, but you'll think of scant croppings, harsh with salt of the sea. And lastly, a poor scholar of the 40s. Again, the North Longford connection with this poem for me is the Latin school in Moyne, where I attended for 3 great years and learned Latin and Greek, which are mentioned in this poem. I'm not sure if that would have made me a poor scholar of the 50s or not, but anyway, this is what a poor scholar of the 1840s was like. My eyelids red and heavy are, with bending o'er the smouldering peat. I know the Aeneid now by heart, my Virgil read in cold and heat, in loneliness and hunger smart. And I know Homer too, I ween, as monster poets know Oisin. And I must walk this road that winds twixt bog and bog, while east there lies a city with its men and books, with treasures open to the wise, heart words from equals, comrade looks. Down here they have but tale and song, they talk repeal the whole night long. You teach Greek verbs and Latin nouns, the dreamer of young Ireland said. You do not hear the muffled call, the sword being forged, the far-off tread of hosts to meet as Gael and Gaul. What good to us your wisdom store, your Latin verse, your Grecian law? And what to me is Gael or Gaul, less than the Latin or the Greek? I teach these by the dim rushlight, in smoky cabins, night and week. But what avail my teaching slight? Years hence, in rustic speech, a phrase, as in wild earth, a Grecian vase. Thank you.
done, Pat. Give him another round of applause. Now, our next performance tonight is Full Swing. They're from Edgeworthstown. And while they're getting ready, I'll just tell you a story, or just something I remembered. When I began my teaching in Dublin before I came to Longford, and I taught with a fellow called Paddy Kilbride from Granard. He'd be a brother of Maura Kilbride Harkins. You know, there was about 6 or 7 Kilbrides in it. And if Granard had played rugby instead of football, you can take it, there'd be half a dozen Kilbrides in the scrum. And their father was known as the Senator, Tom Kilbride. And he died in the early 80s, and I can't remember who the parish priest of Granard was, but I went to the funeral, maybe it was Canon Gilfinnan, but he wanted to describe how strong he was. And he said he went from one field to the other one time, and rather than go out the gate and get the horse, he put the plough on his shoulder. And I was thinking of that when he was talking there. So now we have Full Swing from Edgeworthstown. They're a young traditional group that have been making a name for themselves. They performed all over Ireland. They also performed this year at a festival over in France, at a Breton Irish festival. And they were in the Granard Harp Festival recently, so Full Swing. So you can adjust the mic support. Let's bring that one down. Mark Kjoles, I hope the performance score later in the year, Fiona Nabilara. So well done again for Full Swing. Now, coming up next now, there was also an adult poetry competition, and two well-known Longford poets have been shortlisted. We don't know who the winner is yet, but they have been shortlisted, and a huge congrats to both ladies who are great ambassadors to Longford on the literary scene, and both have had a number of poetry collections published. Now, we'd all love to get a book published, but most of them, they're better off if they're not published. But when a publisher publishes your book, they don't do it because they like you, they do it because they think it'll sell. So that's a great credit to a poet when they can get their work published. So coming up now first will be Margaret Nohally, who's going to read her poem. No,
well, it's a great honour this evening to be reading a poem in the tradition of the master writer Pádraig Colum. And my poem was inspired by a painting of a little girl engrossed in reading. And the painting is by Jessie Wilcox Smith, a renowned American illustrator. And I see that the painting dates from 1905, so it's likely that Pádraig Colum and his wife Mary knew her maybe, or maybe even collaborated with her. And even though the picture was painted in 1905, it's timeless because of its endorsement of reading. It caught my eye in the Sunday Independent in the article by Niall McMonigal called What Lies Beneath. Some of you might know it. He writes, features paintings that catch his eye and writes something about them. So the painting is entitled Picture Books in Winter, and my poem is called Joy of Books. Joy of books. Just the little size of her, not more than 4 or 5. Scraggy, short brown hair, mirth in her eyes, ensconced in floral cushions in a lattice window seat. A glare from settled snow illuminates the page she bores in, propped on drawn-up knees. More books strewn round her feet. Oblivious to sounds within the house or skirmishes outside. How privileged this little girl to know such transport, and so young. Yet deprivation might as likely spark a hunger for enlightenment, escape. Even a single book good fortune come upon could spur. Though not a natural reader as a child, I'd languish without books, my daily food. And poetry my element, I space my raid on novels. Engagement with new characters less urgent than to linger over words. Thank you.
It was absolutely beautiful. And now our second poet, another Longford poet, Mary Melvin Geoghegan, will come and she will recite her poem.
Thanks, Eamon, and thanks to Mary Carter Reynolds for organising this. Well, my poem, a tiny little bit of information. The inspiration for this poem came from an article I read, the journalist and author Don Mullins, the extraordinary account of a young soldier going to the war in 1915, and he was a member of the Royal Irish Fusiliers, and his mother gave him a little crucifix, a little metal crucifix, as mothers do. And that image of a metal crucifix ricocheted, or I remembered another crucifix that I had missed, and it gave me permission in this poem to harvest both images. Anyway, this guy went off to the German offensive in 1918, and he was injured by a bullet. But the crucifix ricocheted the bullet, and it went, instead of going into his heart, it went under his left shoulder blade. Anyway, he was injured and he fell into a trench, and he was recovered by 2 Germans, and later he returned to Ireland, and that crucifix was reverenced in his family almost as an icon, and it was carefully looked after and wrapped away, and through time it was mislaid till now. From an envelope, out falls the missing crucifix with the indent from the bullet, fired during the German offensive of March 1918, as a family searches through an old sideboard on Ranelagh Road. I follow the story, how the mother of Private James Burke gave her son a metal crucifix before he left for the Western Front, how a bullet aimed for his heart ricocheted off the crucifix, clawing his left shoulder blade through the torn skin. Collapsing back into the trench, was rescued later by 2 German soldiers. Private Burke returned to Dublin and became chief usher at the Deluxe Cinema on Camden Street, and fell in love across the road. And I'm reminded of another crucifix taken from my father's hands before he was removed to the funeral home. Thank you.
Now, coming up next will be Aoife Mulligan from Edgeworthstown. I was just checking with her, was she from Ireland? She says, definitely not. She's from Edgeworthstown. Aoife is in her final year in Dublin studying music and English, and she's going to sing for us, She Moved Through the Fair. Sure, what else could we go without?
With a song called Craigie Hill. This one is about 2 lovers.
Springtime, and the small bird
next performance now will be St. Colum Kills National School from Auckland. There's lots of time to get ready, there's no pressure.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our performance of The Road to Colum Kill.
Gee, the Gwyn Usla, August the Falsher Rove Quig our show, and Boher go Colum Kill.
Tosul Agin, go Mani Shiv Tatnub, Oson Tashbuntus.
Guramila Maha Give Gulair.
Oh, Paddy, is it pain to you that I'm wasting night and day? Oh, Paddy, is it grief to you that'll soon be in the clay?
Echion, ein Scalaga.
Crows flying in the darkness, darkness and blackness flying, beings unseen, except for eyes that are like to their own, trespassers' eyes.
Shami, ein Scalela.
To mead of the pastures from wet hills by the sea, through Leitrim and Longford go my cattle and me.
Padder, I'm a ein Scalaga.
My eyelids red and heavy are with bending over the smouldering peat. I know the Iliad now by heart, my Virgil read in cold and heat.
A vucliella on will ein Scalaga.
The tulips were the light's receptacles.
The gold, the bronze, the red.
The bright swart tulips.
Between the towns of Longford and Cavan lies a small village by the name of Auchnacliff. The picturesque views of Loch Garna, this North Longford village is often referred to as a fisherman's paradise. The parish is called Columkill after our parish patron saint, St. Columkill.
The village of Auchnacliff is home to two dolmens, which gives the village its name, the Field of the Stones.
Around 200 metres north of Loch Leibing stands the spectacular dolmen, also known as Labba Dermot agus Grania. This means the bed of Dermot and Grania. This story is an old Irish love story from Irish mythology. The island of Inchmore is situated on nearby Loch Garna. It is an ancient site associated with St. Columkill. This reminds us of Christian worship.
Columkill boasts many famous people, the most famous being Mel Gibson, the actor. Mel's mother, Anne Riley, came from the townland of Molly in Columkill. His mother never forgot her Longford roots. She named Mel after Longford's patron saint, St. Mel, and after our parish saint, St. Columkill.
He was baptised Mel Columkill Gibson.
Just a stone's throw away is the site of poor Colum's house. Our grandfather owns the field where poor Colum's house lies. Poor Colum, 1881 to 1972, was an Irish poet, dramatist, novelist, playwright, collector of folklore and children's author. Pork's days were spent with his mother and father in a little house in Auchnacliff.
No doubt as a teenager, Pork enjoyed the breathtaking views from Molly Hill.
The ruins of Pork's house can still be seen. Although only stones remain, they are still a strong reminder to us of the existence of a great man and a great poet.
Perhaps, just perhaps, Pork was inspired by this little house in Auchnacliff and by his own mother to write the poem, The Old Woman of the Roads.
Recently we sought to understand a world without a house, a world without a home, a world where there are many, many homeless people. We asked the question in 2018, does the poem, The Old Woman of the Roads, teach us about what we need to pray for from God on high? Oh, to have a little house, to own some fresh baked scones. Oh, to have a bit of tart, to shop for it in my shopping cart. I'd love to have a house of my own and watch my flowers grow at home while I write this little poem. Oh, to have a little house, to share it with a lovely cat, and for it to rest on a fluffy mat, and for myself a warm, cosy couch, and in a comfortable coat, telly bingos in my pouch. Football is my heart's desire, to go to training and to be on fire. I'd love to have a friend, at least one or two. I'd be so excited for everything that we do. To see the fresh cut grass of the fields, the smell of it, my faith is sealed. But I wander the streets on a cold, wet day, hoping someday it will be a different way. I go door to door looking for crumbs and something to cure me old beaten thumbs. If I had what I wanted and a lovely roast, I'd treasure my house at the very most.
Oh, to have a little house, to have a view of the hills, to have a fresh baked scone in the morning, with Kerrygold butter and marmalade on top, to have a bit of steak and some apple crumble, to have the neighbours over for a ceilidh, jiving and singing all evening, while the rain bangs off the roof, and I'm cosy in my little house with the dog camped at the fire, and I will pray to God on high for a comfy bed and a full turf shed. But when I wake to reality, I remember what I've got, walking the roads of this poor place, a place called Trot.
Oh, to have a little house, to own a quiet mouse, to hear the cows and sheep as they wake me from my sleep. Oh, how I adore my beef and the fresh smell of a leaf. Barry's tea is a yes for me. My big red teapot is the best you'll see. I say my prayers before I head to bed after a hard day's work in the shed.
Oh, to have a John Deere,
and with it a sup of beer. I pray to God, God on high, that the guards don't catch me as I fly.
Oh, to have a little house, to own a bed beside a fire, to eat a dinner with carrots and peas, and pull the chestnuts from the trees. To have a cat to run and play, I would be happy all the day. Oh, to have a small horse that would go neigh when it wanted me to play.
Oh, to have a little house, to own my sheep and lambs, and not forgetting all my rams. I love my little dog, and yesterday we had a long day on the bog. Oh, to have Bernadette Riley scones and boxty. Oh, to have a Sunday roast and a slice of brown bread toast. These are the things I'd like to see. Please God, someday it will come to be.
Oh, to have a little house, a plate full of spuds, gravy and beef, to have a football to kick against the wall, and to lie down after it all. When the rain comes trickling down from the roof, in a couple of seconds the day goes poof.
Oh, to have a little house, to have a family meal, and watch the Sunday game, to sit outside in the countryside and watch the lake sparkle in the sunshine.
Oh, to have a little house, to own the water and the spuds, the reclining chair by the stove, to finally have the turf hoe, to have some lovely fresh milk, the lovely smell of Nana baking her brown bread, to have a flower bed by the door, with flowers blooming crazy, to watch the Sunday game, to hope and pray that Longford win at the end of the day. Oh, to have a little house, with a little garden with lush green grass, with a little drive to park my car after going for a spin. Oh, to have a little yard to keep the cows safe from harm. Oh, to have a little house protected by an angel.
Oh, to have a little house, to eat yellow chicken curry, to work beside the cows and calves, and to put up all the slurry.
Oh, to have a little house, to see the view of the land, to see the cows in the field and watch the sun go down. Oh, to have a little farm, to have a big red shiny barn that I would fill with bales of hay and work and pray till the end of the day.
Oh, to have a little house, to own the fields and animals, to drink my waddy and play Xbox, to have a cup of tea with 2 spoons of sugar.
Oh, to have a little house, to own a house of love, the bagged up spuds upon the dresser, the fresh flowers beneath the window, to hear the birds chirping a tune, to watch the farmers coming soon, and I'm getting ready to make a lovely stew on my great old rusty cooker. I hear the men shouting over yonder, they smell me stew. Woohoo! A sup of tea and off to see the gander.
Oh, to have a little house, to own a garden and lawn that's cut, to own an apple tree with big red apples just for me. Oh, to have a massie and a big lump of a lassie sitting on the chassis. Oh, to have a bit of steak to fill me belly on me break.
Oh, to have a little house, to own a lovely garden, to have a football and to play is what I'd like to do all day. Oh, to sit outside and have a cup of tea, to admire the countryside, the quietness and fresh air. Oh, to have a little house in the middle of the countryside, to own a herd of cattle and maybe a pony to ride. Oh, to have an oven, to bake brown soda bread, laced with jam and butter, at least then I'd be fed. Oh, to have a warm bed, that would be the very best, to have a pillow and a blanket, then I could have a little rest.
Oh, to have a little house, to have a farm of my own, to work the fields and grow the grass, to see the animals grazing. Oh, to have a Zeta, I would not regret her, but to have a Massey would be even better. I pray to God that this will come true, and I'll still be happy when the sky is blue.
for being a fantastic MC here tonight. And I think there could be no better fitting way to finish this evening than the children of, the Colum National School in Knocknatif. Weren't they fantastic? It gives you great hope for the future, the confidence that's there, and the appreciation for the words they were saying and the inventiveness. And I'm sure, it was said earlier that, if Pádraig Colum isn't with us, when we produced that play, Thomas Musgrave, it was based about a workhouse. And obviously he grew up for a period of time in the workhouse, and he was born in Longford, in the workhouse. And it was actually in 1981, which was the centenary of his birth. So it was the St. Mel's Dramatic Society at the time in the Temperance Hall. And it was a good play. It was Tom Maguire played the lead role as the master of the workhouse. Anyway, we have a fantastic programme over the next 2 days, and that's thanks to Mary Reynolds and her committee, hard-working committee, and her Martin Morris, the archivist, and Mairead Naguna, who's the county heritage officer, and Magella, who works very closely on this as well, and all the library staff. They've done a fantastic job. This is the second year of the gathering, and I think it's gathering speed that we're going to see it definitely as an annual event. And as I said earlier inside at the launch, we hope to have an international element next year, because we're going to plan a bit earlier. So I hope you enjoyed tonight, and I hope you can take part in the programme. The next item on the programme is at 11:30 in the Cathedral in Longford, where the Stations of the Cross, which was a kind of an epic commissioned work by Pádraig Colum, will be read, and that will be led by Bishop Colum O'Reilly. So listen, safe home, have a good night, and thank everybody who took part in this here tonight. I think it was great.
Before we go, just to say I thank the pupils of Colum Kill